Yeah.
Um, so taking it a step further, when you think about your professional role is in digital pathology, which at its core is finding signal through the noise, right?
Yeah.
How do you translate that to politics when you think about politics being so noisy that you have an abundance of, of lobbyists and constituents and people who have their own vested interest in what they want from you? How do you find signal through the noise in terms of providing what's actually necessary for your constituents?
So, one of the things that I campaigned on was improving city services.
Mm-hmm.
As a city, we provide water, we provide like sewer services, we provide police, law enforcement, we provide housing. We're responsible for land use decisions. We help attract businesses and economic opportunities to the city. And there's really a few things that people really need is like jobs, a safe community, um, and obviously I think those are really there's like a hierarchy of needs,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're not provide,
Maslow.
yeah, and so if you're not like if you can't solve the basic issues, you can't get to the top.
Yeah.
So, as long as we're addressing those core issues, really around public safety, and I think that's like one of the core issues, and also just like, economic development, then once you solve those two things, then everything else kind of just falls in order, and
Yeah.
so, that has kind of been, kind of my focus. And also people want a good quality of life. They want to, be able to walk their neighborhood and live in and know their neighbors and not have to fight and argue,
Yeah.
and I think that's what most of people want, regardless of your skin color,
Mhm.
people want to have their family come over and visit, and also if they're raising kids, they want to have opportunities for their kids, like sports and, art, music classes. And like, we have a whole art center, and we have a new football field we just got. And we have various athletics, whether it's soccer, rugby, football, basketball, like that's kind of the community that you want to live in, where there's like stuff for your children to do to keep them busy,
Yeah.
and as an adult, you just want a safe place to come home at night from work, and you just want to be able to go out and eat some good food and have, and then just enjoy life.
Yeah.
So, and if you're into like, if you're a religious person, we got all kinds of churches, so you have people want to wake up on Sunday, go to church. Maybe if you want to go to a football game, we have all that.
Yeah.
We're right here in the middle of the Bay Area. And
Yeah.
so, but nevertheless, you can't get to those higher order things without the
Foundation.
foundation. And so it's really just establishing a strong foundation for the city. So that's how you separate kind of like the signal from everybody's like, oh, I want this nonprofit wants this and that. And then, there's all this stuff. And then like you have some people who, think about, displacement. And then you have people, we don't have any places to eat. We will need shops. We need more. We have a budget deficit. Because when you have a budget deficit, then you're running your cities eventually. If you don't solve that, your city's going to run out of money. You can't provide for them as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to balance economic development, new development, like bring in new businesses, because those businesses provide tax revenue to provide those services. So you kind of have to put everything kind of like together.
Yeah.
When it comes to identifying the right signals, and and it's always there's trade-offs in every decision, and even like when it comes to law enforcement, there's a big concern around like flock cameras and automated license plate reader technology. And some people conflate that with immigration enforcement, and
which is a big deal right now.
Right, exactly. And then on top of that, the technology has been shown to be effective in solving crimes relatively fast. Like we had someone who was sexually assaulted by the creek, and without that flock system, that person would have gotten away and they would have never known who did it, and so being able to balance and find, those trade-offs is kind of what's important. And that's why, the people, obviously want to elect people who are good decision makers.